And welcome back to another episode of Four Chicks Chatting. We have got a topic today that I think all of us can relate to. The subject is time. Do we have enough of it? And
No.
why not? Why? I
They're
don't
24
understand.
hours. Why don't we ever have enough?
I just don't get it.
That whole sleeping thing is very troublesome.
I know. If we can make that optional, that would be great. Well, I'd like to kick this off. I think we're all familiar with Peter Drucker, management consultant extraordinaire. And he's got a terrific quote out there, well, one of many. Until we can manage time, we can manage nothing else.
Oh,
Huh. Huh. That's profound. And
Yeah.
actually true.
If you think about it, we think, oh, we've got to manage time. We've got to manage time. But it really is all aspects of your life, I think. And so he kind of talks about not managing it so much as reorganizing it.
Hmm.
So,
Reorganizing it how? What is the premise? What is the way to reorganize your time when you have 50 million obligations pulling you in different directions every blessed day? How do you organize your time?
now, what Peter says, and I really want your take on this and some tips that you guys use, he's got three different steps. The first is recording it. Now, everybody's talking about that now, right? Recording your time, which I have a
like
hard
writing
time
down
doing.
what you did?
Writing down what you do
Okay.
as you do it. The second step is diagnose it or analyze it. So, is this a good use of my time? What am I really doing? Can I delegate this to someone else? Does this really matter? We've said this before, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months from now. And then the last is consolidate it. And I think we talk a lot about time blocking
Mm.
Oh,
in this one.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 hour is completely different than 6 10-minute sections, right? So once you've written it down, analyzed it, then you time block it. I kind of like it. Whether I do it or not, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't got time for that.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that was the first thing I said today when Mary Fran said, we're recording today, right? And I said, I don't have time for this.
Where'd this come from?
Right.
Who are these people?
Are you? So,
Again,
Robin, what little tips and tricks do you have for us to, how do you manage your time? If you do, and if you don't, I don't think it's a problem. I think people think, oh my God, if you're not organized, then, your whole life is going to hell in a handbasket. I don't think that's true.
Well, I don't think that's true either because, I mean, we're all at functioning at some level, whether it's, high level or low level, whatever. But for me, I love lists and that helps me. So time blocking is great, but I find that because I'm a service industry, I have a ton of interruptions. So even if I block an hour to do XYZ, wouldn't you know, that's exactly when I'm going to get a phone call to schedule a session or something else. And for my brain, if there's an interruption, forget about it. It takes me a while to restructure and get back into it. Right.
Squirrel.
But or squirrel. Exactly. That's me. Shiny object syndrome. But what I do find works really well for me, in addition to trying to block out time every day, is to do the small tasks first, so that if I can accomplish something and scratch that off my list, then I get more motivated. So with each thing that I'm able to accomplish, I'm able to then accomplish bigger things. And sometimes those, it's the smaller things that encompass the big things. And so it's like you said, it's those 6 10 minute intervals that seem to work better for me than saying, okay, here's 60 minutes, I'm going to get it all done. Whereas if I can just process it gradually, it makes me more motivated to do more and stick with the task. I don't know. Does that make sense, girls?
yeah, it does. I find myself that, sometimes when we talk about these time blocks and it's almost like a utopia. Yeah, sure, I've got big blocks of time because, like you said, Robin, there are constant interruptions.
Mm-hmm.
So, to it's just almost delusional to sit there and think that you're going to have these big blocks and chunks of time. If you do, great, and more power to you. But I find that it's not necessarily terrible to be consigned to 10 minutes either. Because, okay, I've got 10 minutes. I can get that one important email written. Or I've got 10 minutes. I can outline the next chapter of my book really briefly. And sometimes I find that less time, oddly enough, makes me more productive. Because if I have a little tiny window and can get one thing done, and I continue to use little tiny windows, they soon amount to a big thing. If you can sort of you can hack away at things in little pieces, I find for me that's an effective way of ultimately getting the big stuff done by chipping away.
Yeah, I think we're saying about the same thing, Mary Fran.
Yeah.
And the other thing I find, and you've got that creative mind when it comes to writing also. And if a thought comes into my head, I have to stop what I'm doing and then write all that down to make sure that, like, as I'm working on my book, I can then get that information documented so that I don't forget it.
Yes.
Because if I do not stop, then it's a fleeting moment. It's gone, and I've lost that thought forever.
The Robin Graham notebook that is now by my side for all of my scratchings and things that I do that all the time. I have notebooks and there's notepads. Here's another one. There's another one over here. And in some ways that's a bit destructive. I get that, but being able to take that squirrel moment and just write something down really quickly is sometimes a way for me to just sort of organize that time, like you were talking about, Kath, that sort of mental process of organizing, and then chip away at it in small pieces later. I don't know. That works.
Kristen, you do this on your bike, right? I do the same thing. I've got my sticky notes and ink pen next to the bike so that I can always, like, as I hear a quote, or if the instructor in the spin class says something, then I can at least write that down. That helps too.
Yeah, I do that too, sitting on my bike and going. I go through my social media now. That's how I maximize time. I do my social media in the morning on my exercise bike so that I'm not just, sitting still and wasting 45 minutes because it's important for me right now with the book launch to be on social media and engaged. But one of the coolest things I did in terms of time, because I do have a procrastinating issue because that's how my creative mind works. But I have, did you ever hear about, I forget what they call it, like an audit or something, where when you look at all the time you spend on things and then, and then you go through and decide what's priorities and all. And I did that a few months ago, running a nonprofit, writing a book, like all the stuff that I do, there's literally not enough hours in a day. So then I had to pick and choose with blocks and stuff like that. But I tried Michael Hyatt's full focus planner. So this, for my brain, when I first saw it, I was very overwhelmed. But for my style and all the stuff I have to accomplish, and you're going to see all my chicken scratch for the people that are viewing on YouTube, but on the left side, like, it sets you up for the week. You do your goals for the week and you break it all down on what worked last week and what do you have to change. But then on the daily ones, the coolest part for me is on the left page, there's your big 3 goals for the day and your other tasks that are either related to that or just the other little things that you have to do. But also on that page is a column with the hours of the day. So I constantly have this visual, and as it's filling up with the tasks, and I start to know that I have to cross some stuff off and take care of it another time. But the best for those notebooks that you were just talking about, the right side is just a spot to put notes. Little lines.
See, I need that. I need that blank space that I can just.
Yeah. And then I go back, and for the way that my visual mind works, I remember that I had a phone call with the National Braille Press on such and such a date, and that's when we talked about this specific Braille file for the book. I go back to that date in this to find the note on that, because I had 4 binders. And every time I was on a call or ideas, I'd have loose leaf and write at the top what that belonged to, the book, the nonprofit, the speaking, and put them in the binders. Well, I can't go places with the binders. I tried Evernote, and I know Evernote works for a lot of people. I know John Lee Dumas talks about Evernote all the time, but I just suck at syncing things and getting all that. I get to write this down, and last night, Sunday night, I spent an hour. Everybody went to bed. I spent an hour in my bed going through what the week looks like, what the days look like. It's just been really cool. The only problem is it's a 90-day, like you have to get one per quarter.
Yeah.
But it really makes you focus for that 90-day goal. So little plug for that one, but it's working tremendously for my brain.
So, Kath, what do you find? I mean, you've got kids too. I'm in a different position than all of the other three of you in that I don't have kids at home, which of course doesn't stop them from calling me and asking me to do stuff for them. However, they are not at home, and that is a huge unknown almost. I mean, you can sort of anticipate what's going to go on during the day with the kids, but invariably somebody blows into a room and there you go, because they need something now, or they need it yesterday, or they're having a breakdown about something or another. So, I mean, there are those times when you have to when your time becomes their time. And I think that's what we all struggle with. But I think there are also ways to say, I'll deal with that. I'll deal with you. Give me 10 minutes. And then again, I can take that 10 minutes and, okay, maybe I just have to close up what I'm doing at the moment, but take that 10 minutes and just kind of put it in a box and go, okay, I'll put this on the shelf for now. And then you go do what you got to do. And then you can return to it at a later time. How do you guys handle it with kids coming in and out all the time?
I do exactly what you just said. If, hey, Mom, can you do this? Or do you want to watch this with me or see this? Yeah, give me 5 minutes or I'll be there in 10. And then after that, I'm there. So it's kind of backfiring now, because when I ask them to do something, guess what they say?
10 minutes?
Yeah, Mom, give me 10 minutes. Hold on. I get a lot of, hold on. Like, wait a minute. No. Only mommy's allowed to say.
Only mommy uses that line.
Yeah. So that's kind of backfired. But I think that the time that I'm with them, I'm present. I'm with them.
I think that's key. I think that's actually key, that whatever you're doing, be there.
Mm-hmm.
Be there, because that ultimately is the most effective use of your time, is being completely present in that moment, attending to whatever it is, so that you can put it to bed, so that you can say, okay, done with this. Because, I was thinking about this new book that I'm working on. I talk a little bit about multitasking and how people think multitasking, we're all so good at I can do so many things at one time. But people have actually found, researchers have actually found that you're sometimes up to 40% less effective when you're multitasking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the idea of saving time by multitasking is just a myth. It doesn't work.
One of my clients is a psychologist, and he says you cannot multitask. You cannot be effective and multitask.
The brain just cannot do one thing at a time.
Right.
I mean, more than one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I've just hung up on the word managing time, because it feels like, that's why I love this Peter Drucker reorganizing it, because you think of managing it, and if I'm not doing it well, then everything else is terrible.
Well, I think it's an ongoing thing, don't you? I mean, I don't know that you can.
It's a life. It is,
and every day is going to be different.
Yeah,
every day is going to bring. So I think one of the biggest things, Kristen, I wanted to actually bring up something that we talked about before we got on the air. That Mel Robbins had an Instagram post today.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that. Yeah.
What was that?
Okay, so she says, if you think you don't have enough time, read this. And it's about not wearing busy as a badge for the most part. But the thing that really caught me is at the end of the post, she says, the things that matter in your life deserve your time and attention. You deserve your time and attention. And when you decide to make time for yourself and the things that matter, you'll realize you aren't too busy. In fact, you'll have all the time you need.
Well, and I think that's what it comes down to. Yeah, it's a matter of that. What's really important here? Is it really important that you, and believe me, I'm a big Marie Kondo fan, but is it really important that you Marie Kondo your drawers right now, or is it important that you get that email done? Even if you only have to, and it could, the answer could be either. And I think that's important to recognize too. We put ourselves under these constraints of having to accomplish certain things, but that could be one thing one day and one thing another day. And you have to be flexible with the time that you are allotted and do what's necessary to you that day. I
I
don't
think you're
know. Is that
exactly
right?
right. No, I think you're exactly right. And I
You're
think
right.
people have to look at their own lives, their own schedule, their own, like, are you busy trying to accomplish 57 things because you feel like that is the, you want to show being productive and accomplishing all this? And is that what really matters? I mean, I put the brakes on almost everything I was accomplishing last year to make sure that my kids were healthy and safe. That became the priority, and it took all of my time. And I wasn't going to apologize for it. And I will say to my kids in advance now, if there's something big coming up that I have to do, and I'll know in advance, and I'll say, hey, I'm going to have to devote like 3 hours to this on Saturday. Whatever you need before that, let me know. Or if I lock the door, I'm on this call, and we have a negotiation like that, a partnership, I guess, like that, to honor each other's time. But I do the same thing with them. And actually, I don't know, back to what we were talking about with the kids and giving them your time. There's a lot of studies out there on how effective parenting. It's not about how much time. It's what we were saying, when you're fully focused,
There.
fully
The
in the
quality.
moment,
Yeah.
the quality of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, because I was feeling bad as a single mom. I don't have time for all three of them. But when you give them that undivided attention and focus, a few minutes goes a
A
really
very
long
long
way.
way. It does.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, they have the attention span of gnats for the most part anyway. So they
Pretty
really
much.
can probably only take 10 or 15 or 20 minutes of you at any given time. And
Yeah.
I don't mean you, I mean any of us. So
Yeah.
I feel like that, that's a very valid way to look at it. And I can't remember who I read this from, but someone was saying if you're saying that you don't have time for something, it's more likely that that's not a priority for you. And I think that we have to be okay with that, because a lot of times we feel like we should be doing something, but we say, oh, I don't have time. It's okay if you can't or don't want to do something. It's okay to let go of that. I think we put ourselves through these paces where we have to be doing X, Y, Z, either because everybody else is, or that's what the script says and what,
Mhm.
the book of what you're trying to accomplish. But if it's continually something that you're saying I don't have time for, then it's clearly not a priority for you. So move on to something else.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say that, and it always comes back to TV. Um, I am now watching Game of Thrones. I know I'm 7 years late,
I've never seen it.
Oh my
but
gosh, it's amazing.
when my husband was watching Game of Thrones and I could hear these explosions through the floor, I'm like, what the heck is he watching down there? That was when the start of reality TV came and all of the housewives. So I was upstairs watching all the housewives now. But now I've got this deadline because the last season of Game of Thrones is out. So both children know that this is a priority for mommy. And
Watching
so,
Game of Thrones.
label it under self-care, or Mel Robbins would say, take time for you. But each night now, mommy has to go to the realm.
I find that
That's my thing.
parceling time for myself like that, regardless of how absurd it may sound to anybody else. I mean, I'm the marvelous Mrs. Maisel fan. I am
Yeah.
like binging.
Yeah.
I'm watching that show every chance I
Yeah.
get. But it refreshes me. There's something about that show that refreshes me. So if I'm saying I don't have time for something, but I have time to watch that, then clearly there's something in it that is feeding me. Now, obviously, you have to be sensible about it. You can't be watching television all the time, but
Right.
there is an opportunity for you to work that into your day and recognize that it's okay to have that.
Rachel, if you're listening, we would love to have you as a guest on our show.
There you go. Please.
Please. Please, Rachel. Tell us how you got 18-inch thighs.
She
Tell
is,
us.
I mean, really, that is just, how does the girl look like that? Well, she's
Mhm.
probably 27 years old. That's how
What
she
are we talking about here?
We're talking
The
about the
Marvelous
marvelous
Mrs.
Mrs.
Maisel.
Maisel.
Oh, I don't know that
Rachel
show.
Brosnahan. Oh, it's amazing. But
Yeah,
anyway, back to the point at hand.
Good one.
If you're saying that you don't have time, maybe you don't want to have time,
And that's okay.
and that's okay.
Or something is filling. What I also had to do was take a new look at, that auditing my schedule. What is filling my time that just, it doesn't matter right now? Does it really matter? For a while there, it trying to get the book out, it didn't, not that it doesn't matter, but it didn't matter in 2018 as much as other things mattered. And I had to be okay with, I just wanted it done. I wanted the darn thing out there. I wanted to say I was finally a published author after, 3 years. And it didn't matter as much as other stuff. So now it matters.
Right.
Now it matters a lot, but now it matters. And actually, I brought the kids on board for it. My Mitchell does videos about the tools of blindness, which this book addresses, and Carissa does she's the film crew. I mean, they're all, our whole dining room is for it. Like, they've all, because of focusing on them and respecting their time and all, and them understanding my time for the stuff I have to get done. Now we do it as a group. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, there's
That's
a lot
an
to be said.
that's a good leadership empowerment tool that you use, Kristen. You get everybody involved, give them a little skin in the game, make them feel like what they're doing adds value. That's a good job,
It is.
leader.
Yeah, way to go,
Good
Mom.
job, Mama. Good job.
Boom.
I think we also have to recognize that all of our, well, I shouldn't say all, many of our deadlines and many of our time constraints are arbitrary. And they're set by us for what we think is important in the moment. And that can and should be a flexible thing. It's like you said, because I'm in the same situation. I'm in the middle of this book right now. I just want the darn thing done. But there are other things that are happening. There are speaking gigs. People are asking me to do stuff. And all of those things are kind of, yes, they're taking some time away from it, but at the same time, they're nurturing another part of my life and my career and all that. So you have to be willing to recognize that these time constraints are somewhat arbitrary, and it is okay to shift every once in a while and put your time where it's going to be of the most use to you and not necessarily where you feel guilty, if that makes sense. Because I think we feel guilty when we have these big projects and we don't get them completed at the time that we decide we want to get them completed, but it's not always the best use of the time to adhere to that kind of an arbitrary deadline.
Well, and I think also things happen for a reason. So there's a reason you have a speaking engagement come up on your calendar when you thought you were going to have the day to write.
Yes.
There's something that you're going to learn or experience or that's going to fuel you, that's going to add to your book. Like I
Right.
firmly believe like things happen for a reason.
Well, there's going to be a nice fat check, which is also always a reason to do.
We'll take
because
it.
you have to pay for those books.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah. So the other thing is, you guys have kind of talked about like if you don't have time for something, then maybe it's not what you are meant to be doing. But what if it's those things that you really have to accomplish and have to get done, but don't have the time to do them? And for me, I was running into that, and it was actually kind of setting me back a little bit by avoiding some of those tasks that I didn't have the time for. I just did air quotes. But to hire someone else to do those tasks is also very beneficial. I'll say I just hired a VA for the first time last fall, and she has made a tremendous impact on my productivity and my time to focus on what I really need to focus on. And she can do the things that she can do that I don't have to do anymore. And it really makes a huge difference in overall success of your business.
Yeah, and you know what? You're working your brilliance, and that's a theme that I keep coming back to over and over in everything that I do. You have to use your time to work your brilliance. And if something is going to take you 10 times longer than it will take someone else to do because you don't know whatever it is, then find the money and hire them and just get it done. Take it off your plate. I know that sounds easier said than done, or barter your services with someone. Find someone, if you have a certain skill, if you're, as a writer, I could say, just for an example, to Robin, okay, I'll write your website copy if you do a headshot for me, or if you'll do this, that, or the other thing. Find a way to work within your network to get those things that are time sucks for you, that you're not good at, and get them out of your way.
Yeah. Oh my God.
For me, that was
story
tech.
on that? What was it? Tech?
Tech. Yeah, for me, it's tech. I just... my chest tightens. I start shaking. It's like
I'm starting to sweat. My chest is tight.
Exactly.
So I have a story. That was a story I was going to share on tech. I realized this weekend. Now, this is also an example in when you have an epic fail, how you can not necessarily spin it, but use it for good. I realized this weekend that my flippin' email list for a few months has not been sending out the messages. So people are signing up for the book. The list is growing, and they're not getting the periodic messages updating them. Had a complete heart attack over the weekend. And then I'm like, why? Well, there's also, remember that the saga of my website. There's that hacker that if that person would just use their powers for good. So I'm like, maybe it's the firewall. I don't know. And I can't get on the phone with GoDaddy until this morning, Monday morning. So I kicked off my week because I was so upset about it and no one's getting these messages. I did a Facebook and Instagram live saying what happened and that I was trying to get to the bottom of it. Then I'm on the phone with GoDaddy and they're like, well, it's $80 for the ticket to go in and do the updates that it seems are the problem. And I'm thinking, I'll just go in and do the updates myself. And then the power of storytelling. I start telling this poor tech person my story of the book and why this is important that these people get these emails. And I'm going on and on and on. And she was doing, the ticket is in there now. They're updating the whole thing for $8.57.
Oh, yes.
Well, there you have it.
Play that card, baby. Whenever
I was
you
very
got a card
close
to
saying,
play it.
all right, the $80. Because I'm like, if I go in and do all the updates myself, sometimes in WordPress, if you do that, it crashes your site.
It does. Mm-hmm.
So then I'm like, do I just update MailPoet? And maybe I do have to move into a better email system. So all of you out there that run those, I get it. I have to move to something better. However, in the time being, power of a story and paying $8 for them to fix the whole thing. So it all worked out.
When you're ready, let me know, Kristen, because that's what Denise has been doing for me. I can give you tips. I've learned a lot.
For the email list or for WordPress?
For well, both, but I've kind of turned all the WordPress stuff over to Lydia because I can't. It's too much. My website's too big, and the plugins are too much. But the email list and stuff, I've learned a lot through my coach and then through Denise. And now mine's like working like clockwork, even though I haven't put anything out just yet. But it's ready to go.
It's ready to go. That's all that matters.
I built
What
that
did
sucker
Rachel
really
Wynott
well.
say
It's
to us?
managing it that I'm like, holy crap. I guess I got to go in and look at it more often.
Build
All
the
right,
engine.
kids. Let's
we gotta wind
wrap
this
it up. Anybody got a squirrel brain tip?
Moment.
So I have one. It's a quote actually from Benjamin Franklin.
Oh, Ben.
Mm-hmm. You may delay, but time will not.
Oh, man.
I thought that was pretty good.
Here's what I would say. Use the 10 minutes. Find a use for the 10 minutes. Don't get caught in thinking, oh, it's only 10 minutes. What am I going to accomplish? You can do something in 10 minutes. And if you consistently use those little tiny bits and pieces, you will find that you have chipped away at a big project.
I'll say focus. When you do make the time to do, whatever tasks or whatever, make sure that you're fully focused and not distracted by the other things that you have going on.
Okay, just to recap on Mr. Drucker, don't manage your time, reorganize it, and do that in a way that works for you. If anything that we've said here today helps you, great. If you have your own way of doing things and quote unquote managing or organizing time, we'd love to hear it. Thanks for joining us. Follow us on That Social Thing, and we will see you again next time.